Hello, today we'll be talking about the Vikings. No, not the NFL team. We are talking about the ancient Nordic people from Scandinavia. Some may think that the Vikings inspired the modern hipsters with the big beards and plaid shirts. They were a group of people whose culture revolved around traditions such as sailing, raiding, farming, and trading.
Ooh, weren't they the dirty guys with the helmets with the horns?
Close, but they didn't actually wear horned helmets. They were actually known for the good hygiene, unlike, wait for it, the Mongols.
Aww.
In 793 CE, monks of the island of Lindisfarne were attacked by the first known Vikings. The Vikings came down from Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. This was the first known attack by the Vikings, and it was on a monastery. The Vikings would attack monasteries because they were defenseless and often rich.
2 years later, the Nordic men struck again, and the group became more known among the world. Vikings were made up of families that were small kingdoms. Each family would rule their kingdom in a democratic government. Raiding foreign places was a tradition to the Vikings. Non-family members wanting to gain power would raid new places to gain popularity. Vikings started to raid more and headed southward. The purpose of raiding was to show dominance and gain loot. Also, the Vikings wanted to settle more southwards to farm and trade with the other people.
By 805 CE, the Vikings had almost all the islands of Scotland belonging to them. In 850 CE, they sailed to Wales and started raiding more often in bigger attacks. In the meantime, they made advancements in sailing because of their island geography. This allowed them to go and discover islands like Iceland in 860 CE. In 870 CE, they started settling in Iceland. Wait, I thought they were farmers. Why would they move to cold Iceland?
They are farmers, but actually, Iceland is very fertile and not that cold. About the same weather as Ireland.
Viking men ruled many countries, such as Scotland, Ireland, Norway, and Denmark. The Vikings enjoyed raiding any town or city. Some of the written history on Vikings raiding culture is written by the people that were raided. The Vikings were described as horrible thieves. The Vikings didn't think this way. Raiding was a way of proving dominance and was a challenge to find a superior group. The money was taken to show that they were the victors.
Sometimes if an entire small town was successfully raided, the Scandinavians would move to these areas to live, such as Scotland.
The growing power of Vikings allowed them to form bigger groups to raid and begin to conquest. In the mid-1800s, the Vikings would raid England with intent to conquer. By 1880 CE, almost all of England's rulers were Vikings, but the Vikings left England to prepare for war again and came back to England outmatched by the British defenses. For many years after this, raiding of England was less and less successful.
The Viking settlements did fairly well for themselves. They were able to feed themselves with the cattle, pigs, and goats they raised. They would use coins from all over, from English to Islamic coins. The constant raiding of areas of France, England, Ireland, and the Northeast allowed the Scandinavians to sometimes have luxurious lives, but their greed always wanted more.
The religion of the Vikings changed from the original pagan gods, such as Thor, yes, the Avenger, to Christianity. This was caused by the openness to have many gods that led to also loving the Christian God. The raids and conquests allowed the Scandinavians to see many cultures and religions, mainly Christianity. Gradually, Christianity grew on the Vikings until in 1000 CE, when it was the main religion.
Everybody knows the Vikings for their sailing. The Vikings are known to have discovered the Americas and Northwest Islands. The famous Eric the Red was one of the discoverers of the new lands. The story goes that he felt like he was wronged by a man. He decided to make it right by killing that man. He was exiled and went off with a group of men into the sea. He found an island west of Iceland and named it Greenland. He persuaded people to move there.
At this time, when Greenland and Iceland were gaining population, the Scandinavian kings wanted to show that they ruled the islands. The kings continued to keep watch on the island. Around 1000 CE, when the Scandinavians were now Christian, the king of Norway sent Leif Erikson to convert the islands to Christianity. Leif stayed there and began his career exploring. He found mainly islands and lands, but the most important is known as North America. North America, named Vinland, was not inhabited due to the fear of the native people.
As time went on and the Vikings continued trying to raid places, they began to fall to the improved defenses. The religion change to Christianity took away some of the violence from the Vikings. This led to less raiding, which in turn led to less money and land. This was one of the factors that led to their downfall. The change in climate made farming harder so that the Vikings had less food. The failures and lessened desires in raiding made the Vikings become more civilized until they weren't thought of as Vikings. They were eventually thought of as Swedes and Norwegians.
Don't forget to be awesome.